Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunati Ravanachari Jamunati Ravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunati Ravanachari Jamunati Ravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashishimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, entitled Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creation. Chapter 7, entitled Lord Shiva Saved the Universe by Drinking Poison. We're reading today from text 25 to text 29. So we have 26 in the board, so I read 25 and then we read 26 and then I read the other ones. Text 25. Tvam Shabdajo Nirjagat Adir Atma Pranendriya Dravya Guna Swabhava Kalakratu Satyanritam Cha Dharmas Tvajaksharam Jatribrit Amananti. Translation. O Lord, you are the original source of Vedic literature. You are the original cause of material creation, the life force, the senses, the 5 elements, the 3 modes of nature. The 3 modes and the Mahatattva. You are eternal time, determination, and the 2 religious systems called truth, Satya, and truthfulness, Rita. You are the shelter of the syllable Om, which consists of 3 letters, A, U, M. Text number 26, we can chant responsively. Aknirmukante kila davatatma. Aknirmukante kila devatatma. Shitim vidur lokavavangri pankaja. Kalam gatim te kila devatatmano. Dishas chakarno rasanam jalesham. Aknirmukante kila devatatma. Shitim vidur lokavavangri pankaja. Kalam gatim te kila dhavatatmano. Dishas chakarno rasanam jalesham. Aknirmukante kila devatatma. Shitim vidur lokavavangri pankaja. Kalam gatim te kila devatatmano. Dishas chakarno rasanam jalesham. And please chant. Mataji's. Agni, fire. Mukham, mouth. Te, of your lordship. Akila Devata Atma, the origin of all demigods. Shitim, the surface of the globe. Vidhu, they know. Lokabhava, O origin of all planets. Angripankaja, your lotus feet. Kalam, eternal time. Gatim, progress. Te, of your lordship. Akila Devata Atmanaha, the total aggregate of all the demigods. Dishaha, all directions. Cha, and Karnao, your ears. Rasanam, taste. Jala Isham, the demigod controller of the water. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Father of all planets, learned scholars know that fire is your mouth, the surface of the globe is your lotus feet, eternal time is your movement, all the directions are your ears, and Varuna, master of the waters, is your tongue. Purport. In the Shruti mantras it is said, Agni Sarva Devata. Quote, fire is the aggregate of all the demigods. End of quote. Agni is the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is through Agni, or fire, that the Lord accepts all sacrificial oblations. Text number 27. Nabhirnabaste shwasanam nabhasham suryascha chakshunsi yalam smareta paravatam tabatma somo mano Bhagavam sirashte. Translation. O Lord, the sky is your navel, the air is your breathing, the sun is your eyes, and the water is your semen. You are the shelter of all kinds of living entities, high and low. The god of the moon is your mind, and the upper planetary system is your head. Text number 28. Kukshi Shamudra Girajosti Sangha Romani Sarvaushadi Virudaste Chadam Shishaksha Tabashapta Datavas Trayi Mayatman Hridayam Sarva Dharma. Translation. O Lord, you are the three Vedas personified. The seven seas are your abdomen, and the mountains are your bones. All drugs, creepers, and vegetables are the hairs on your body. And the Vedic mantras like Gayatri are the 7 layers of your body. And the Vedic religious system is the core of your heart. Text number 29. Mukhani panchopanishadastavesha jaistrim ashotara mantra varga yatach chivakyam paramatma tattvam deva swayam yotirabastitiste. Translation. O Lord, the 5 important Vedic mantras are represented by your 5 faces, from which the 38 most celebrated Vedic mantras has been generated. Your lordship, being celebrated as Lord Shiva, is self-illuminated. You are directly situated as the Supreme Truth known as Paramatma. Purport. The 5 mantras mentioned in this connection are as follows. 1. Purusha. 2. Aghora. 3. Sadyojata. 4. Vamanadeva. And 5. Ishana. These 5 mantras are within the category of 38 special Vedic mantras chanted by Lord Shiva, who is therefore celebrated as Shiva or Mahadev. Another reason why Lord Shiva is called Shiva, which means all auspicious, is that he is self-illuminated, exactly like Lord Vishnu, who is the Paramatma. Because Lord Shiva is directly an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he is situated as Lord Vishnu's direct representative. This fact is corroborated by a Vedic mantra, Patim Vivashwetsmeshwaram Saswatam Shivan Achyutam. The Super Soul is called by many names, of which Maheshwar, Shiva, and Achyuta are especially mentioned. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadi Satarine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, the prayers of the demigods continue towards Lord Shiva. They were directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, to take shelter of Lord Shiva, the demigods. And the demigods and the demons, all of them were directed to Lord Shiva. To be safe from the danger of the poison that was generated by the churning of the ocean of milk. And Lord Shiva is glorified with the prayers that we regularly hear describe the Supreme Personality of God and Lord Vishnu. And Prabhupada explains very clear what we've been hearing consistently throughout the explanation of these prayers and the proper understanding of Lord Shiva's position in respect to Lord Vishnu. So we have heard that it's quite appropriate for anyone to address Lord Shiva with these prayers when one understands Lord Shiva's position in respect to Lord Vishnu. If that proper understanding is not there, then it is an offense. It is an offense like the offense, the second offense that we chant of the holy name. One should not consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent on the name of Lord Vishnu. So if one does not have the proper understanding of Lord Shiva's position in relation to Lord Vishnu, then it is an offense. But if we have the understanding of Lord Shiva relationship with Lord Vishnu, the proper understanding, then these prayers are quite appropriate. They're considered very good and very appropriate. And in fact, Lord Vishnu becomes very pleased when Lord Shiva is glorified in such a manner. So, Lord Shiva is explained that is a direct expansion of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu expands as the the three Purushas of this creation, of the universe, of the material manifestation, as Lord Vishnu, we heard yesterday, Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. And they are considered, Prabhupada also described it as, they're described as guna avatars. So their appearance or manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to control the three modes of nature. Prabhupada also explains that both Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, he describes as Shakti Avesh avatars. So they're endowed with the exact potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for performing a particular task. So in other words, from their perspective, they are manifestations, direct manifestations of the personality of Godhead. The proper understanding, it becomes a mistake when one thinks that any of these manifestations are independent or they're greater than the personality of Godhead, Krishna. And the proper siddhanta, or the proper the key, like it is explained, the key verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, or the verse in which the whole Srimad, the whole siddhanta of the Srimad Bhagavatam is contained, is the verse, the famous verse, Ete Chansa Kalapunsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So, having that understanding of this verse, then everything that we hear in the Bhagavatam makes sense. Is perfectly understood. Because there are certain parts that if one takes it like out of the context of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam, one will be very confused. For example, in this part of the narration of the Bhagavatam, the position of Lord Shiva is equal to Lord Vishnu from the prayers that we hear. He is considered the Paramatma. He is considered the cause of all causes. He is considered, all these prayers has been given. So one take it out of context. Oh, here it is. So Lord Shiva is also supreme, which is the claim of Mayavadis. So you can worship Lord Shiva, you can worship Durga, you can worship Ganesh, you can worship Krishna, you can worship Vishnu. It's all good. And there's also so many narrations that are there in the scriptures in which appears very confusing. For example, I was mentioning the other day that in the Ramayan, Lord Ramachandra, who is celebrated as, one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu, the Dasa avatars, he worships Lord Shiva. And therefore, one of the, places of there's a name of Lord Shiva as Rameshwara, which is the Lord or the master of Lord Ram. Rameshwara. There's a place of, it's a place of pilgrimage in South India by the ocean, where Lord Ram, before building the bridge to cross to Lanka and before engaging in the battlefield with Ravana, he worshipped Lord Shiva. So then he became, that place and that deity of Lord Shiva became known as Rameshwaram. And so Lord Shiva, that Lord Shiva is a worshipable deity of Lord Ram, people claim. So there it is. So Lord Shiva is supreme. So if we see the things out of context, then it's very confusing. Oh, maybe there, if one's put 1 + 2 is 3, so then, one comes to a conclusion. So Lord Ram is Vishnu, Lord Ram worship Lord Shiva must be supreme. So maybe we should worship, Lord Shiva like that. But the proper understanding is that actually Lord Vishnu takes great pleasure by glorifying, and he himself takes also great pleasure in putting himself subordinate to his devotee. And, it's in so many instances in the Lord's pastimes, he does the same thing. As Krishna, he carries Nanda Maharaj's shoes upon his head. And, he cries, and trembles in fear when he sees Mother Yasoda with, a wooden stick, chastising him. So one can think, oh, what a minute, this is the supreme, no one is greater or equal to him, and he's trembling, seeing his mother whipping stick. So, so in many occasions, Lord Chaitanya also, he submit himself to his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri, and he's claimed himself that he is in front of his spiritual master. He's just a fool. So it's part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead mood to accept or to take great pleasure in seeing his devotee worship. He says that actually those who worship me directly, they're not, very advanced. But those who worship my devotee, they're very advanced. They're actually my devotees, like that. So, so one have to have that proper understanding, and then everything is quite appropriate. So, Eti Chamsa Kalapunsa Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam becomes the most important, verse according to Srila Jiva Goswami of the Srimad Bhagavatam, because it is established that all the different expansions, incarnations, appearance, avatars, they all either direct expansion or expansions of the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan. Swayam Bhagavan means the original, and that Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, the Swayam Bhagavan is Lord Krishna, by name. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So, so then, when these prayers are offered to Lord Shiva as a representative of Lord Vishnu, as not subordinate, not independent of Lord Vishnu, but subordinate to Lord Vishnu, then it's quite appropriate. It's quite appropriate. So then it is explained that the aspect of Lord Shiva that is an expansion of Lord Vishnu expands as Lord Shiva to be able, we heard that the other day in class, to enter into contact with the material energy. The Supreme Lord Vishnu never is in contact with the modes of material nature nor with material energy. But when the Lord comes in contact with material energy, he assumes the form of Lord Shiva. So then the form of Lord Shiva before entering in contact with the material energy, that expansion is called Sadashiva. Sadashiva is also called Hara. And that form is fully transcendental. In fact, that form is spiritual, never changing. So that form is even understood that there is a Vaikuntha planet that is presided by Sadashiva. And we hear also that Sri Advaitacharya, who is Lord Mahavishnu, he is also considered an appearance of Sadashiva, both, Sri Advaitacharya. So that form is non-different than Lord Vishnu. But when that form enters into contact with material energy, then is Lord Shiva, Shambhu, which is described in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma, that is when milk gets into contact with a sour substance, then it becomes yogurt. So then that's manifestation of Lord Vishnu as Hara or Sadashiva enters in contact with material energy, then it becomes, is a manifestation of Rudra and Shiva, Sambhu, in this material world. So one have to have that proper understanding. That's the main message. I want to read a conversation with Srila Prabhupada, in which, so how as devotees we deal with Lord Shiva, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, how do we deal with Lord Shiva? And how we also, when we're preaching, especially to the Indian congregation, who traditionally they maybe worship Lord Shiva. And so how we deal with that? Then here's a conversation of Srila Prabhupada. The title of this conversation is, Should Devotees of Krishna Discourage Others for Worshipping Lord Shiva? There was in Naperville, there was a nice couple, a very nice family, and the wife was very much attractive to devotional service and to Srila Prabhupada's movement. The husband was a very nice man, but they were from Kashmir, and they traditionally worship Lord Shiva there. And he was of a Brahmin family who for generations worshiped Lord Shiva. So for him was so hard to give up his tradition that eventually he was too much for him. He couldn't. So he took the whole family, in a very respectful way. He was just saying, I just can't give up. I've been doing this is by tradition. So even, with argument, explanations of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was just too hard for him. So here's what, some similar situation. that a devotee brought to the attention of Srila Prabhupada. The devotee. Srila Prabhupada, in Winnipeg, there is one very pious East Indian man who for many years has been worshipping Lord Shiva. And his wife is also a very quiet, chaste woman and sincere follower. And so were her parents of Lord Shiva. And he is reading your Bhagavad Gita, he visits our temple, and I have given him the first volume of Canto 4, which discusses Lord Shiva a great deal. And he has read in one of your purpose that Krishna is more pleased when you worship his devotee than when you worship him directly. And Lord Shiva is a very great devotee of Krishna. So he has now interpreted that to mean that if he worships Lord Shiva so nicely, then actually he's pleasing Krishna more. So he's experiencing some difficulty because of this. And I'm not quite sure how to instruct him that actually, and Prabhupada, difficulty? And Brahmananda, that our God brother has difficulty in replying to this interpretation that Krishna says, you can please me by worshipping my devotee. And Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna. So therefore this man says, then I should worship Lord Shiva. In that way, I should please Krishna. Prabhupada. But if he accepts Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna, then by worshipping Lord Shiva, he will be benefit. If he thinks Lord Shiva is independent, then he will not be benefit. Devotee. I got him to accept that Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna, but there is no practical instruction in these worldly activities coming. Prabhupada. No. Vaishnavan yata Shambhu. Amongst the Vaishnavas, Shambhu, Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. So we worship Lord Shiva as a Vaishnava. He gives respects to Vaishnavas. So why not Lord Shiva? Lord Shiva is a big Vaishnava. But generally, the devotees of Lord Shiva, they take Lord Shiva as independent God. That is offensive. If you know that Lord Shiva is also a devotee, you can give more respect to Lord Shiva. Krishna will be pleased. Devotee. Srila Prabhupada, he does not chant Hare Krishna. He chants Om Shivaya Namaha. Prabhupada, that's all right. Devotee, is it all right? Prabhupada, he will gradually become a devotee. When God, Lord Shiva, will be pleased upon him, he will advise to worship. Devotee. He is already trying to tell him to follow your footsteps surely. So just before I left, he said he will try once again to chant 16 rounds of japa. Hare Krishna. He has just tried already. He has a taste for Prabhupada. Prabhupada. If we simply understand that Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava and he worships Lord Shiva, then he will get great benefit. So, who is the real follower of Lord Shiva? Lord Shiva, he is the head of one of the 4 bona fide sampradayas of disciplic succession, the Rudra Sampradaya. So those, the people, the devotees that follow that disciplic succession, that the real followers of Lord Shiva. No, the Shivais who consider Lord Shiva as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're not the real followers of Lord Shiva. They're actually considered, as per the scriptures, atheists or, actually, non-believers. They're considered like that according to the Vedic scriptures. So the followers of the Rudra Sampradaya, they are followers of Lord Shiva. And the Rudra Sampradaya is headed by the founder of the Rudra Sampradaya is Vishnu Swami, and is considered the most ancient of all these sampradayas in terms of, the main acharya was much before than Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, and I can't remember the other one. Who was the other? But also connected to the Rudra Sampradaya is Ballavacharya, which was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya during this time. But and I think the philosophy is called Suddha Advaita. Suddha Advaita means pure oneness. So and it's a Vaishnava philosophy. Is understood, the main deity that is worshipped by the Rudra Sampradaya is in Natadwar, which is in Rajasthan, and is Srinathji. Srinathji, so in some of the temples in ISKCON we have a deities of Srinathji, which is Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. And they worship Krishna, and they're also are pretty much absorbed in trying to achieve the moods of the gopis in terms of the type of exclusive worship that they have of Lord Krishna. So there's more to that. I'm not very known a lot of the teachings of the that sampradaya, but it's a bona fide Vaishnava sampradaya, and those are the teachings of Lord Shiva. Just like we also the head of our sampradaya is Lord Brahma, then Lord Shiva is the head of that sampradaya. So those are some things that we have to perfectly understand to be able to fully absorb ourselves in this beautiful pastime of the churning of the ocean of milk and the great exalted position of Lord Shiva as a direct manifestation of Lord Vishnu. Any comment or questions? Bhakta Marcel.
So, Hare Krishna, I have one question. Is since Lord Shiva is the highest Vaishnava, would he be considered greater than Lord Brahma?
What I understood of that is that there is many different like levels or levels of intimacy and moods, and in a particular mood, Lord Shiva is the greatest. But then we also hear, like for example, Srimati Radharani is no one most exalted than her, as a worshipper of Krishna. And then sometimes we hear Govardhan Hill is the greatest of all worshippers of Krishna. So, we have all these different greatest, the all truth, if you see in the particular space or mood that they, represent. So that's how I understand it. Yes, back to Jordan Prabhu.
I was going to ask a question a little bit more in detail of the difference between the modern Shivites and like the actual bona fide Sampradaya. Like there's so many people who worship Shiva, even in America.
Yeah.
But are they not, most of them, they're not actually in the Rudra Sampradaya, they're just like deviate deviated from the actual Sampradaya.
Correct.
So like Mayavadi
Yeah.
mostly.
Mayavadis are just, they're offenders. It's not, offender is a very hard term to, we should not use like that, but as per the, I think it's a verse, it's a shloka that appears in one of the Puranas. I have to look for it, but it says that is from what that offense of the holy name appears, that it says that they're considered atheists. In general, those who worship Lord Shiva as supreme, they have demoniac tendencies. That was, from the times of Ravana and, Hiranyakashipu, all these personalities, that they enemies of Lord Vishnu. So then they worship Lord Shiva specifically because Lord Shiva, part of his famous for being pleased Ashutosh, very easy to please, and to receive some material benediction. So the mentality is demoniac. Then demoniac from the sense that they don't want to connect to the personality of Godhead. They want to be God themselves, or they want to be able to enjoy, material happiness like that. So, in the case of Ravana, he was worshiping Lord Shiva to what? To become like the most powerful personality in the universe, to become God. And in case of Shiva is that most of them have this impersonal conception. They worship Lord Shiva for what? To become also God, like that. So that mentality is a demoniac mentality. And if one accepts, rather the disciplic succession of Lord Shiva, then one is directed to worship Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, So then it's all in place, it's all appropriate. Is that an answer? Okay. Any other comment or question? Rasa Mataji? And then Prabhuji. Okay. Yeah, there's a little switch on the side. Can switch it?
So I mentioned for those who struggle with accepting Vishnu as superior to Lord Shiva, there's a practical example, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, how Vishnu is superior, the pastime of Mohini Murti. And,
yes.
So that's one way to try to convince them, about that.
Yes. That when Lord Krishna assumes the form of Mohini Murti, Lord Shiva got completely bewildered. And that's the same Lord Shiva that he's so fully controlled that even Mother Parvati trying to agitate him, he wouldn't get agitated in any circumstance. He's fully controlled. He just lost it when he saw Mohini Murti. So yeah, that shows his position. Also, so many instances in the Bhagavatam, the instructions of Lord Shiva to the Prachetas. So he directed the Prachetas to worship Lord Vishnu, and like that, so many, wonderful pastimes. Yeah. Thanks, Prabhu. Rasa Mataji?
Hare Krishna. So, I guess I had two parts to my question. So, one is sometimes when we hear prayers like this, the lines get blurred, as you were explaining, between, worshiping Lord Krishna and then, worshiping his devotees. But I guess where I sometimes get confused is, you always think, well, if you're chanting Hare Krishna, it's like watering the roots of the tree. So all of the, devas and, authorities are pleased. So then why have to worship, his devotees? What's the difference between watering the roots of the tree and not having to directly worship devas, but yet offering them respect, but then worshiping his devotees? It's sometimes the concepts can be a little tricky. Mm-hmm. So that's one part to my question. And then the second part to my question is, the Lord always teaches by example. So like you gave the example of him worshiping, or Lord Ram worshiping Lord Shiva, just to, teach example of respect and, worship of devotees. But why cause all this confusion? Why not, worship himself and show that he's God? I mean, there's so much confusion sometimes that can come out of these things.
Yeah, I think the principle is that we receive Krishna through Krishna's devotee. That's the principle, and one have to because it's not just okay, I got it, and then that's it. Now I have it. It's not just that. It's that we have to be taken from a position of being almost diseased to a position of health. So we have to become purified to be able to fully take advantage of that what we've been given, So the process of we receive the holy name, we receive the worship of Krishna by the devotee, but then having that, we still need, so much of that protection, guidance, constantly, in order to be able to fully connect to that gift that we've been receiving. So that's how we receive. That's how it's received. That's Krishna's system. So we always have to. It's almost acknowledging Krishna's system and honor it, And if we want transcendental knowledge, do you just not, take a book and try to, get it yourself? You go to Krishna's devotee, tat vidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya, instruction, that you search for someone who can teach you that, someone who have already understood that truth. And so we honor that. We honor Krishna's, and that's how it is. You learn, you receive bhakti, and you understand Krishna as it is through bhakti, and bhakti is received by the devotee. So it's the connection, and therefore Krishna consistently set that example when he comes, in his human, when he takes a human form to perform human-like pastimes, he always does that. So he submits himself to the authority of a superior, and as a spiritual master. In the case of Krishna, Sandipani Muni became his spiritual master. In the case of Lord Ramachandra, he had, you know, he had a spiritual master, and then he worshipped Lord Shiva as the perfect king. I think the reason was, you know, to achieve victory in the war with Ravana. He needed to worship Lord Shiva. That was that's, you know, so he worshipped Lord Shiva as a deity, you know. So it's examples, set of the examples. But the principle is that we have to receive, and we have to acknowledge, and we have to be connected to the system that Krishna has established, that you receive through the devotee. You don't receive him directly. It's not possible. You have, what do you think? Yeah.
You know, sometimes Srila Prabhupada uses the material example of if you love my dog, you know, like you strike a conversation with somebody and pet the dog and then like that, because the owner usually they're so attached to their dog, so that, you know, then they butter up the higher person, you know, like
Right.
like that. And of course, you have to also always go to Krishna through the authority of Srila Prabhupada. So the pure devotee, so Lord Shiva is also a pure devotee, a pure Vaishnava. So by pleasing him, it's a matter of etiquette. You go first to the lower to please the higher, isn't it?
Yeah, and the fact is that they give Krishna a lot of pleasure because they're very dear to Krishna, you know. That's why we pray to Srila Prabhupada, you know, Krishna Prestaya, Namo Vishnupada Krishna Prestaya Bhutali. He is very dear to Krishna. So they're very dear to Krishna, so Krishna becomes, you know, one, like someone that is, when you have a child, you know, if someone, like what you said, you know, if someone comes, you know, and, you know, really, you know, feels, try to make happy your son, you know, and you become also very happy just to see your son being treated very nicely. So, similarly, that's it. Yes, back to Eric Prabhu.
Who does Lord Shiva worship?
Who the Lord Shiva? Shankarshan is the manifestation. Specifically, he worships Sankarshan. Yeah, it's one of the four main expansions of the Chaturvyuha. Shankarshan. Shankarshan also is Lord Krishna expands into Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram expands into Shankarshan, Pradumya, Aniruddha, and what is it, Narayan? What is the fourth one? I think Narayan, or maybe not. Shankarshan, Pradumya, Aniruddha, and Vasudev. Vasudev, okay. And then from Shankarshan, then comes another Chaturvyuha, like that. So then that Shankarshan is the worshipper of Lord Shiva. Yeah, it is explained in the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam. Okay? Is that good? Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.